Django was invited by Duke Ellington to go to the USA to play in his orchestra on a tour. He accepted, despite this leaving Delaunay and Grappelli disgruntled, as they had new projects which thus could not get off the ground. Django stored his manouche guitar away in the cupboard and set off for New York. When he arrived, the first thing he did was buy an electric guitar made by Gibson, the best in the market and used by Charlie Christian. But this did not please Ellington too much, because he had wanted to present Django just the way he had performed with the Quintet Hot Club in Paris. However, Duke Ellington was the only jazz musician who understood Django Reinhardt. He reached the conclusion that obliging him to follow the musical discipline as other members of his orchestra, who were masters of music and of playing live, would have been a waste of time. Moreover, Django could not read a single note of music, so Ellington opted for the best solution. He let Django play freely, without restrictions or impositions, giving him liberty to improvise in his own way. The orchestra supported him with a perfect rhythm, full of the swing that the interpretation needed, and only at the end did it discreetly intervene to finish the number with all its splendor. You cannot shut away in a cage a bird that is used to enjoying its freedom. It would be like condemning it to death. The quality of these three recordings, made in 1946, reveal the astuteness of the great Duke Ellington. Django was giving all he had. His inventiveness was exceptional. And he totally mastered the technique as he poured out all his inspiration freely. We will never be able to thank Duke Ellington enough for having treated us to these three masterpieces. They bear witness to what the Gypsy Jazz King was really like. When he got back to Paris, it began to be difficult to find work. However, he managed to play with several groups and to do some recordings with the Quintet Hot Club, in which he once again played alongside his brother. Despite being inferior to the recordings made in London the year before, this does not take away any of their interest and value. In those days, the activity in the world of jazz was helter-skelter. Concerts, performances, and recordings of different styles of jazz as the music moved on in several directions. Django and Grappelli were still touring, doing gigs in cities like Brussels and Rome, where they also recorded some tracks, but the results were unmemorable. When he got back to Paris, Django sold his house there. His wife and his son, Babik, were waiting for him in a caravan at the Porte de la Chapelle. They set up home near to Les Bourget. Soon afterwards, they bought a house near to the river Samois-sur-Seine, a village 10 kilometers from Fontainebleau. He had put his guitar away in the cupboard, but it would not stay there for long. Now he was interested in painting, a way of escaping, but his work did not produce anything significant. He spent the rest of his time fishing or with friends. Although he had suffered from poor health, he once again picked up the guitar. He needed it to subsist. He played with quite modern groups and for radio stations. By 1952, he had made a little name for himself in the world of bebop and other styles. He was well enough prepared to take on board anything that came his way. By now, he was having to copy his own disciples to find work. Being down on his luck in this way did not make him feel humiliated, because for him bebop, or whatever, was nothing. As he was a genius, he was easily able to outplay his disciples. We have chosen Flèche d'Or, recorded 1 year before he disappeared. On this track we are able to hear a Django with whom we are not familiar. It could be any North American guitarist of the latest generation. He could play like them or even better, and all this despite having 2 useless fingers on his left hand. This is the testimony that the history of jazz is divided into 2 stages, before Django Reinhardt and after him. And we could add that even after his death, Django Reinhardt continues to exist, because all of his successors carry something of him inside their work. 15th of May 1953, in the afternoon, he began to feel ill. He passed out. Quickly, his friends carried him home. The doctor urgently ordered that he had to go into hospital. He died from a brain stroke on the 16th May. He was 43 years old. His wife, in accordance with gypsy ritual, burned all his belongings. The funerals were held in Samois-sur-Seine. Over 500 gypsies turned up, but very few intellectuals or musicians. Stéphane Grappelli excused himself, saying that he could not come because of professional commitments. Neither the authorities, nor the artistic world, nor even the press went to the trouble of highlighting the disappearance of Django Reinhardt. Specialist magazines like jazz magazines, Hot Jazz, or the Bulletin of the Hot Club de France dedicated him a ridiculously small amount of space. He lived and died like a manouche. That is what the writer Jean Cocteau wrote in the unique article that is worth reprinting because of its humanity and the pathos of its words. Django dead is like one of these sweet wild animals that dies caged up. He lived like one dreams like living in a caravan, and when he was not in a caravan, he continued being on the road. His soul was wandering and celestial. His rhythms were so pure they were like the stripes on a tiger's skin. They lived in his skin. They made him invisible to the hunters, but the hunters always end up bringing down the sweet wild animals